Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again into 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan, and look at there, smiling like a Chessy cat.
Woohoo, tomorrow's Friday.
You like that, huh?
Hi, everybody.
PLPC Carla McCormick, and we just have nothing but gratitude for the guy that keeps this thing flying, keeps us on the air. He is the ace of the airways, Rapid Ruben Wright.
Well, happy to do it. Good evening, everybody.
You got up real early this morning.
Oh, yeah, and will be for the next several mornings.
You're probably going to, have to rely on some of the things we've been talking about this week and keep yourself well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Take plenty of naps and, stay fed, eat regularly.
We've been talking about, we're in Wellness Week here on Strategies. We started out with Self-Care 101. On Monday, we talked about the mind and taking care of the mind on Tuesday. Yesterday, midweek, we talked about the body. Today, we're going to talk about the spirit.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we'll come back and we'll talk about what spirituality is. We'll talk peace, clarity, and meditation. We're going to talk about finding meaning in your life today. We'll also try to tackle some ways that nature can help Carla become a better person.
I love that part.
And maybe even savor some silence. All of that today as we tackle the spirit here on Wellness Week on Strategies for Living. We are presented by CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. And they've been helping individuals and families in our location right here in Shreveport-Bossier in the area for 60 years. We're also brought to you by Milestones Counseling Center, by Jerry Anderson State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Resilient House, and by Jacob's Well, inspirational books and gifts. Yeah, you can't beat Norman Greenbaum. You just can't beat him. Yeah? How did you like that I just pulled that out from the 70s, from way back here in this gray matter, huh?
Here we go, radio nerding
a little
again.
Spirit in the Sky to take us into this break. We'll be back. Strategies, Spirit, today. If we're talking addiction prevention, education, and treatment in Shreveport-Bossier for 60 years, we're talking about CADA. Let's talk about addiction. Let's talk about treatment. Let's talk about getting your life back. The Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, CADA, has been helping individuals and families in Shreveport and Bossier City for 60 years now. CADA provides intensive residential treatment as well as outpatient services too. CADA treats women with children, pregnant women, adolescents, veterans. CADA has helped thousands and thousands of people in North Louisiana from just about every race and ethnic background, every socioeconomic level, across every class line. CADA has helped single mothers, attorneys, teachers, nurses, doctors, construction workers, musicians, you name it. Life is better on the other side of recovery. Call 222-8511 or www.cadanwla.org.
When's the last time you checked your credit score? Those 3-digit scores can have a huge impact on your financial life. Credit Karma can help you with free scores, free reports, and free monitoring. Credit Karma also gives you the tips, tools, and advice you need to understand your credit and
Yeah, we're back. We're back, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, and we're back on Strategies for Living PLPC. Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist David McMillan during Wellness Week here on Strategies. We are talking about the spirit today, and what is spirituality? Yeah, it means different things to different people, does it? It seems everyone might have a little different idea. I mean, some people, and for a lot of people around here in our listening area, participating in an organized religion is what spirituality is. But going to church, going to synagogue, going to mosque. But for others, it's not that at all. And I think we have to be mindful of that. Spirituality is a non-religious experience for some people.
Can it be both? Can it be religious and have, a spiritual connection outside of my religion and my faith? Like in the top, you make fun of me, but I mean in the mountains.
I think I think the answer is absolutely. I think the answer is absolutely. Yeah.
When you hold the newborn baby, I mean, that's a spiritual experience.
Yeah, and I think things like, prayer, yoga, meditation, quiet reflection, even a long walk can be a spiritual experience.
And a long walk through the woods is even better.
Yeah. Maybe not everybody is spiritual, but I wonder if that instinct is that, the instinct towards spirituality is deeply ingrained in us.
Well, and I guess I would say the feeling that we are all interconnected, and that what I do affects more than just me.
Yeah.
And there's something bigger than me.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't consider yourself spiritual, if you can see yourself and you can see the world on that level, to me, that's spirituality.
Yeah. Research shows that even skeptics can't stifle the sense that there's something greater than this world that we see with our senses and interact with our five senses, the world we see and hear and taste and touch and smell. As the brain processes these sensory experiences, what the brain does is it naturally looks for patterns, because that's what the brain does, and our more conscious selves seek out meaning. We see those patterns, we experience those patterns, and then we try to make meaning. We try to put meaning to those. And in certain instances, this can lead to you remember from graduate school the phenomenon that you learn called cognitive dissonance?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that shows that once we believe in something, we are so strongly inclined then to try to explain away anything that conflicts with it. And so really the long and the short of it is, we talk about, and we've talked about on Strategies, the big questions, right?
Right.
Who am I? Most religions attempt to answer these. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where am I going to after this? Those are the big three. Those are the big questions. And humans, those are wired into us. Maybe that's why all of the major religions have some way of presenting answers to those questions and even the questions to us. Maybe it's wired into our minds.
Well, it has to be. I mean, we're the only human beings, the only animals that think about those questions. I mean, a dog doesn't think about being a dog.
No, the dog's always just a dog now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're the only animals that think about why we're here and what our existence means. So it has to be hardwired.
So, a lot of people today talk about meditation, right? And mindfulness meditation, we've talked about it in the weeks that we've been on the air. It's a pretty simple method of mental training, and it helps you see the world hopefully more clearly and consider your actions and cultivate some deep awareness, even find happiness. It sounds so easy, doesn't it? that's one of the, I think that's one of the problems with meditation. It sounds easy. Just sit as long as it takes and let your mind go blank, and your feelings of negativity or distress will just drift away. Poof. It's not that easy.
No, it's not. Poof.
But who has the, I think everybody could get there, right? But who has the time to sit there for, until my mind completely goes blank? And can one generic exercise, can one thing really relieve all that we get overwhelmed about?
Yeah.
You've meditated? Have you practiced meditation?
Well, I'm not like a deep meditation. I'm not a scholar. But I know that if I give myself 15 minutes a day to just what I call practice mindfulness, what's my day going to look like? Positive thinking, purpose in my day, purpose in my intentions.
Right.
It's probably, and just kind of let my mind be still for a little while instead of starting to work before I get to work.
Right.
My day's better. My mood is better. My attitude is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just that simple. It's paying attention to what I'm thinking and paying attention to how I start my day.
How would you describe, if you were telling someone, you're trying to sell me on meditation, how would you do that? How would you approach me David, you really need to start a meditation practice?
Well, the first thing I would tell you is that you need to pay attention to your thoughts. That you are more in control of your thoughts. You need to be in control of your thoughts instead of your thoughts in control of you.
Yeah, I think that's a key. I really do think that's a key, because for most of us, if we've never done any form of meditation, and I think the word has become maybe a little stifling.
Yes, scary.
Scary, yeah.
Right.
And I think we make too much of it. Meditation is really simpler, perhaps, than the word indicates, and we get all, oh, I'm going to do this wrong. And the fact is, we're talking about stepping back and observing your thoughts. That's really what we're talking about.
Well, and for me, it's putting my mind in a positive gear, because my mind, at least when I wake up, it doesn't stay in neutral. If I'm laying there and I don't engage it forward, the next thing you know, I'm back in 4th grade when those girls were mean to me and they broke my macaroni jewelry box. Crazy things come back in my mind. So
Yeah.
I have to engage my mind forward and go, where am I going today? What do I want? What are my intentions for the day? And for me, that's how I start my day.
Yeah.
Along with some prayer.
It can be a massive difference to be able to step back and look and realize that my thoughts are not me. And that is one thing that meditation can really do for you over the long haul, because most of us are in our own heads, right? And so we think we are our thoughts. And yet, if you meditate, if you begin the practice of meditation, you put the effort into it, the energy into it, and you begin to step back and be an observer of your thoughts, you realize a couple of things. Number one, you realize that you're crazy if you define it by your own thinking, and that's not just you and me and Reuben, because
Leave Reuben out of this.
people have listened to us. They know we're crazy, right?
Yes, they know I am, for sure.
But if we could look inside, let me throw out some spiritual people, okay? So if we could look inside the Pope's head, if we think the Pope is a spiritual person, or the Dalai Lama's head, because we think the Dalai Lama is a spiritual person, or Billy Graham, the late Billy Graham's head, if we could look inside, if we could have looked inside, and we could have witnessed his thoughts, in any one of those gentlemen's thoughts, we would realize, well, wait a minute, they're crazy too. But what's the difference between them and us? Perhaps it is that they learn to step back and observe their thoughts and then become a chooser of their thoughts instead of a slave to their thoughts. Does that make sense?
Well, it's the chooser. I think that's the key word. I think that people need to realize that the thought, you can't stop the thoughts from coming. They will come.
Yeah.
But you have to decide whether you're going to leave the thought there and play that old movie and pop some popcorn and pull up a chair and just watch that movie, or you're going to change the channel.
Yeah.
And just realizing that you have the ability to change the channel sometimes is eye-opening to people.
Exactly, because you realize, well, wait a minute, if I'm not my thoughts, because if I'm observing that chair over there, then I realize I'm not that chair, because anything I could observe, I'm not that. One of the subtle things that a meditation practice does is when we step back from our thoughts, I realize, well, wait a minute, I'm not my thoughts. I'm something else. Well, what am I? Well, I'm an observer. And I realize, well, wait a minute, my thoughts come and go, and they're crazy, and they're all over the place. But I am the observer and the chooser of my thoughts. Now that's bigger, isn't it?
And that's that's empowering to be able to know that I can't choose the thoughts that come, but I can choose the thoughts that get to stay.
Absolutely. So Prevention Magazine's Essential Guide to Self-Care has an article in it by Emma Hack, and what she did is she talked to some meditation gurus, and she confronted the nagging question: Can meditation really do it? Can one exercise really help that much? And so 10-minute meditations can change 8 common troublesome mindsets. When we come back from break, we're going to tackle that, and we're going to tell you what some of these experts told Emma Hack from Prevention Magazine.
Cool.
And share them with all of us as we talk about peace and clarity and meditation today, because we're talking about the spirit here on Strategies for Living Wellness Week. We'll be back. welcome back. Welcome back into 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Welcome back into Wellness Week here on Strategies for Living as we talk about the spiritual.
Sorry, Ruben.
PLPC Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist David McMillan, and we're going to talk about just some very simple meditations that you can use to calm your spirit and your mind and take better care of yourself. Dean Slater, who he's into something he calls natural meditation. He's been a life strategist here on Strategies for Living a couple of times. In fact, I talked with him about his book, Natural Meditation, a guide to effortless meditative practice. And one of the things that Dean's a great guest, a great life strategist. One of the things that he says is, hey, he says we complicate this thing called meditation. So if you're stressed, if you're feeling stressed all day, his advice is a traditional Tibetan technique. It's called sky gazing meditation. Yeah. So how and when I interviewed Dean, he said you know he did his in a hammock a lot. He said, you don't think of, you always think of this idea in your mind of to meditate, you've got to get into a certain position with your, cross your legs and put your hands in a certain way and go,
Right, like the Tibetan monks.
Yeah, and Slater said, no, you can do this from your hammock, And so sky gazing, look out the window, relax your whole body. Let your gaze expand into the spaciousness of the sky. You might repeat the sound slowly. It's the most open sound that you can make, and it amplifies the feeling. Let your attention go. Just sit for a few minutes. If you're not near a window, or if you worry that people are going to think you're daydreaming, put the sky on your computer screen, and sit watching your computer, the sky on your computer. Rest your attention on the perimeter of your monitor instead, and that is an actual Tibetan technique called sky gazing.
But couldn't you do that at the beach with the waves?
Absolutely.
You could do it there's nothing I like better than to sit in front of a fire and watch the fire.
Oh, yeah.
There
you go.
People in front of aquariums, people who like aquariums, just watching the fish. So it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just something to focus your attention on, right?
That's exactly it. If you're having a hard time focus, if that's your issue, Sharon Salzberg, who is a meditation expert. She's the author of Real Happiness, The Power of Meditation. She says, sit in a comfortable place and just breathe naturally and let your attention go on your breath, which is always with you, right? And so with each inhale and exhale, just mentally repeat the words in and out. In and out. And if your mind wanders, don't worry about it. Just let go. Don't judge. Use no judgment of whatever is taking you away from your breath. Just keep coming back to the breath. Just bring your attention back to the breath. In and out. In and out.
Every time we did that in yoga class, I would fall asleep. I guess I was really relaxed, wasn't I?
I think so. If you're going through if the issue is that you're going through a very emotionally taxing time, then you may try loving kindness meditation. Sit quietly and breathe normally, and gather your attention around a repetitive phrase. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. Whenever your attention wanders, just gently let those thoughts go. Come back to the phrase, may I be happy. May I be peaceful. And after repeating that phrase for yourself, offer it up to include all beings everywhere. May all of us be happy. May all of us be peaceful. May all things be happy. May all things be peaceful. Again, this is from Sharon Salzberg. She also threw in an idea if you have too much on your plate. I mean, this happens to all of us, doesn't it? We feel overwhelmed. We feel anxious. So she says, stand and feel your feet. Stand and feel your feet on the ground. Notice the distribution of weight between your feet. And with your eyes open, just begin walking at a normal pace. And then slow down. And notice the sensation. Just tune into the sensations of your legs moving up and down. Your mind will wander, and she says that's okay. And when it does, just bring it back. Invite your mind to come back to those sensations. And what this does, she says, it will help ground your energy. You know, you'll begin to feel balanced again.
I kind of like, remember that other guy who had the chocolate meditation?
Oh yeah, you loved that, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to chocolate
Yeah,
meditation.
let's go back to that. Yeah, do you remember it was just taking a piece of chocolate
and smelling it and looking at it and using all of your senses and then basically doing the same thing.
And then popping it into your mouth and then letting, as it dissolves, just focusing your attention. You know, and he did recommend, I think, a piece of dark chocolate.
He did, because that could be healthier. But chocolate is chocolate, right?
Yeah. Let's not argue over the chocolate. You know. What about? And this is for so many of us. What about if I'm absolutely just seem to be permanently attached to my cell phone? Can meditation help me there?
Yes, but first you have to put it down.
Oh, why? What? I've got a part from my phone.
You do.
So, when the impulse to whip that phone out strikes, whether you're waiting for a friend who's running late, or you're waiting for Carla in the lobby of her office, and she's running, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late.
She comes in on two wheels.
And coming in, like Ruben says, coming in hot. If you're just waiting to cross the street and you want to pull the cell phone out, just resist that. And you're going to feel a wave of anxiety. You're going to feel that you might be missing out on something fun or something important. But just refuse to panic. And that wave is supposed to happen. Okay, well, that's just a feeling. Recognize it. And notice what it feels like. Notice what it feels like in your stomach. Notice what it feels like in your chest. Don't try to repress it. That's what so many of us do. We try to make it go away, and it makes it bigger. And
right.
So don't repress it or try to make it go away. Just let it pass through you. And once it rolls through, you'll see that there's something good in the wake of it, and that's silence and freedom. And just be in that natural silence for a few minutes and notice how good that feels.
Do you think that with cell phones and the fact that we always have them handy, and so we never just sit anymore in a restaurant when we're waiting for a friend and look around and browse at the menu or people watch, we've always got to be doing something?
Yeah.
Do you think sometimes that we're missing things, like we're missing kind of... Remember the old days when you'd have to sit in the mall and you were waiting for someone and you would just people watch, or the airport, instead of having your head in your phone?
Yeah. Okay, so Dean Slater offered another one that you might like then. If your issue is, look, I want a deeper connection to the people around me, right?
Yeah.
And so he says, again, there's an ancient Tibetan technique called meditation on the benefactors. So sit quietly. Think of someone who has unconditionally loved or supported you. Someone who saw what was best in you and helped it flourish. Now close your eyes and just visualize that person behind and slightly above you. And imagine him or her radiating love. And that love is showering down. It's showering down on you in the form of a beautiful golden light. And so just sit and allow your body to be bathed in that beautiful light. And then visualize someone in front of you, someone that you want to share the light with. And just let that light pour down through you, through your heart center. So from your benefactor, through your heart, into the person that you want it to go into, and let it pour through you, through that heart, and bathe that person in front of you. And Dean Slater says that this practice helps foster a sense of connectedness with others around you.
How is that not prayer?
I think it is prayer. I think
How
that is prayer.
How is that different than when we say our prayers and we
see? It's just a matter of the label that we put on it.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Yeah, it's just the label, and we get hung up on labels, don't we? I mean, some people even probably listening to us right now probably said, "They're talking about meditation today. They're talking about that Eastern stuff. Let's turn that off, Martha." And,
right.
I'm sorry.
And we don't mean to offend all the Marthas out there.
Yeah, no, I don't want to offend any Martha or Butch or Billy or Sadie or anybody. But I mean, it's the labels.
Right.
Because we attach a label to it, and that label, we, in our own operating system, in our own ego, which was, again, loaded into us by somebody else or somebody's else.
We didn't choose it.
We didn't choose it. But if it's loaded into us as a belief or a message or a story, then my goodness. And what those are just labels. They're just labels.
Yeah, because I mean,
we don't have to be overly hung up about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Just do it. I mean, and let it feel good, and let it change you.
Yeah. Here's one more from Dean Slater. If your husband or best friend or your in-law or your boss is driving you crazy,
Ruben.
Visualize the person who you're having difficulty with as a perfect enlightened being, radiating pure, tranquil light, but she's stuck inside an eggshell. And all the actions that you find difficult or problematic are just this person trying to peck away at that shell. And now visualize yourself gently helping to peel away that shell so that you can see that she's becoming her best enlightened self. And next time you see that individual, you'll frame your relationship in a new context.
That's not what I do. I just go, bless her heart. It must suck to be her.
Oh, bless her heart.
Bless her heart. See, that works.
That works. Yeah. Southern girl through and through. Let's come back and let's talk about finding more meaning in your life as Strategies for Living rolls on, talking about the spirit today.
can feel the magic floating in the air. Being with you gets me that way. I watch the sunlight dance across your face, and I've never been this swept away.
And welcome back. Welcome back into 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. You see, he's in control of everything. Do you notice how, I mean, he's like a puppet master.
He's the Oz.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he made me change my
the sad old man behind the curtain.
Yeah, made me change my entire voice.
I know he's got on his Delilah voice.
Oh, come on now. What, does it have to be a Delilah voice? Can't. That's pretty syrupy.
Well,
Is Delilah still on?
I don't know.
I don't know if she is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I hear people still talking about her, but I don't know if
she
she's
must
still
be.
on.
She must be still on.
maybe she should be my idol.
Maybe so. All right, so we're talking. Welcome back, folks. We're talking wellness all this week here on Strategies for Living, and we're talking the spiritual today. Do you know who Viktor Frankl is?
I do.
Yeah. So we're talking finding meaning in your life. You know, sometimes life can be a blur, barely felt moments. We all know that, and so you feel overwhelmed and struggling, and it can be very difficult to recognize and realize what is my true purpose. And we'll talk about a few simple steps. But if you have not read, if you're not aware of Viktor Frankl, and it's a book that he actually wrote between 1942 and 1945 when he was a prisoner in the Nazi death camps. And and he actually wrote this book and had to hide it. And he actually, of course, you know, Jewish prisoners. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, but then he was put into the death camp. And each day he you know, was threatened with which line am I going to be in, the line that goes towards the work detail or the line that goes towards the gas chamber. But he survived, and as he wrote, he was able to hide the manuscript of Man's Search for Meaning in his overcoat. He wrote it on toilet tissue. It's the only paper that he had. And then when he got out of the camp, he published it, and wow, has it made an impact? And 10 million copies, 24 languages. Viktor Frankl died in 1997. But Man's Search for Meaning, powerful, powerful book. If our listeners have not read it. Generally, I see several copies of it in Barnes and Noble. It's a classic.
It's a small book. It's a quick simple
read.
book. Yeah, you can read it in a weekend easy.
But boy, talk about something that will get you focused on purpose and meaning. So
tell them what it's about and why they should read it.
Well, okay. Let me just pull up a description here. Let's see. So Frankl labored in 4 different camps, including Auschwitz. His parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished. Based on his own, so it doesn't get much worse than that, right?
That's pretty bad.
Based on his own experience and the experience of others he treated later in his practice, Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, and he uses his own life, and that's suffering. But we can choose. What we can always choose, Frankl says, is how we cope with it and what meaning we find in it and move forward then with renewed purpose. So his theory became known as something called logotherapy. It comes from the Greek word logos, which is meaning. And it holds that our primary drive in life is not pleasure, like Dr. Freud said, but it's discovery and pursuit of what is meaning for each one of us individually. Man's search for meaning.
And that in every struggle and in every trial, you can find some meaning.
Absolutely.
Even in a concentration camp.
Even in a concentration camp when you're losing all of I mean, you could argue Viktor Frankl lost. He could have just, you could understand if he had just laid down and said, I give up.
Right.
Look, that's loss of a great magnitude, isn't it? And
Right.
yet he ended up coming out, publishing a book that created really the whole existentialism movement. All of the therapies that we are so, that we know so well today are actually built upon existentialism, which really is built upon Viktor Frankl and his work.
And finding meaning in your life.
So
And
person-centered therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, all the things that psychotherapists that practice today.
so what we talked about yesterday was we don't search for happiness, we search for meaning.
Yes.
And in that meaning we find happiness.
So what are some simple things that we could do to find meaning? One simple thing, I mean, how easy would it be to join a group?
Easy, but
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, a group experience, even one that's brief, that provides support for personal problems, can be very powerful, according to Richard Leider, the author of Repacking Your Bags. He says there's a traditional notion that you have to overcome your problems on your own, but if you go to workshops, you step into a mini culture where mutual support and problem solving are the norm. And that can be very refreshing, according to David Feinstein, who is, I've interviewed him here on Strategies too. He's an Oregon-based psychologist. He specializes in a field that combines Eastern and Western ideas. He says to find a similar experience that can carry you for more than a weekend, seek out like-minded people by exploring an activity you love. Join a walking group. Coach a youth sports team, volunteer at a soup kitchen or a hospital, take a photography class, sign up to walk dogs at the local shelter. I mean, let your mind flow.
And if you're stuck, grief groups,
There you go.
AA meetings,
Yeah.
Weight Watchers.
I've been to, I don't know, I've been to, I don't know how I've lost count, but I like going to AA meetings. The first one I ever went to, I was assigned, I had to do it because I
Right,
was
for
assigned in
school.
graduate school. And then I kind of liked the whole idea. I mean, I kind of like the idea of the 12 steps. And people may or may not know, most AA groups, you just show up. You don't have to have you can just go. And Carla, I don't know how many I've been to through the years, 7, 8, I don't think I've ever been to an AA meeting that I didn't walk out of and think to myself, I'm glad I went to that meeting.
Well, and because you always walk away with some little
Something.
glimmer, some
Yeah,
little nugget.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Develop some kind of daily practice. Spend some time every day noticing your own thoughts and directing them toward the greatest idea and ideal of yourself. That's according to Joe Dispenza, one of the personal transformation teachers that's featured in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? It's a great movie. Great
I know.
movie.
I just saved it in my phone. I'm going to watch it this weekend on Netflix.
Making time is the biggest obstacle to personal change. So he tells people not to get out of bed in the morning until they do whatever thought exercise that they've chosen. For example, you could meditate. If you don't want to meditate, then pray. Or just notice your thoughts and direct them wherever you want them to go. Your practice doesn't need to be massive or big.
No.
Just a small practice, and it doesn't have to take a long time. Doesn't have to be big. Doesn't have to take a long time. In fact, doing something as simple as a 5-minute breathing exercise, Dispenza says that can be enough.
Your gratitudes. I mean, you don't even have to write them down in a journal. Just think about today I'm grateful for.
There you go.
ABC.
There you go. We'll come back, and in the time we have left, we will talk about, do we have a nature deficit disorder?
I don't.
No, I know you don't, but maybe a lot of us do, and so we'll give you some ways that you can become a better person through nature
I love that.
when we return. 1 in 4. 1 in 4. And I'm going to pick on you women, because 1 in 4 women has a medical prescription to treat depression or anxiety. The college campuses are reporting a spike in students needing psychiatric counseling. Between 1994 and 2008, the rate, and this is incredible, 1994 to 2008, the rate of antidepressant use in the United States jumped 400%, nearly 400%. While medications certainly have their place in treating serious mental illnesses, they're far from the only thing that can make us better. Because, Carla, humans harbor this deeply evolved connection with nature. And researchers are really showing and discovering the benefits of reconnecting with growing spaces, green spaces, nature. My friend Dr. Sewell, Pat Sewell, and I, sometimes he'll call me on a weekend, a Friday afternoon if he's off and I'm off, or a Saturday or a Sunday, and say, you want to meet at the over at the nature, in South Bossier, the Red River.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's nice. If you haven't been there,
refuge,
you should go, guys.
Yeah, there's acres and acres of trails, and one day we walked and walked and walked and walked. He damn near killed me, and we got to the car, and he's 74 years old and like he's 40, and I'm going, and he said, "How far you think we walked today?" I have no idea. He looked at his cell phone, which he has a tracker on, and it was like 6 miles. But we were talking and carrying on, and it was, it was
I've often thought that would be a
effortless.
great way to do therapy, like walk and talk.
Yeah, well, I think he does. I think that's his subtle way of getting me well.
Hey, that's a
walking
good
therapy.
friend.
Yeah, yeah. You can also, your green thumb. And, you might say, well, I can't do that. I live in an apartment or I live in a townhouse. Again, you don't have to do a massive garden, do you?
No, you can just do some
Right.
plants.
And
some
me and my
flowers.
wife have killed several house plants already in our little apartment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what you may want to do is you may want to go out in nature and put up a canvas and just kind of paint and do it that way.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think I might can do that.
Yeah, get yourself outside. Just spend time in nature. And it definitely has an effect. We could go on and on because the spiritual stuff could go on and on, but we got to stop here today. Wellness Week will continue tomorrow, Carla and Ruben, with emotional first aid.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's tomorrow. We'll wrap up the week. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We've been brought to you by CADA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana, by Milestones Counseling Center, by Jerry Anderson State Farm Insurance, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Resilient House, and by Jacob's Well, Inspirational Books and Gifts. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? What would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Carla McCormick, for Ruben Wright, I'm David McMillan. See you next time on Strategies for Living.